Today we'll be building a PC for under $200, and take this with a grain of salt because some of these parts I already had on hand, but most of it I already paid for.
Here we have an H10 motherboard paired with an i5 i6400, and it's most commonly found in some mid-range office PCs, but this will do the job. And what we're gonna pair it with is an ugly 8 gig green stick from Kingston. I pulled this out of a Dell OEM, and I'm not gonna add it to the budget. But you can really find cheap RAM on eBay these days, or for mild $40 on new on Amazon. But this is the only thing this board supports. I mean, you can put higher clock RAM into any motherboard. It will just not be able to clock any higher than its base speed. How pathetic those VRMs look. I just noticed that this motherboard has a missing SATA connection. This is not necessary as we have 3 other SATA connections, and unless you're plugging in 4 drives, this is not a concern. But you can plug extra SATA connections through PCIe, which is a good thing. But it's still sad and ugly to see this hideous thing. Here we have a used Antex 650 watt power supply. This thing is used and I found it lying around. I would never recommend a used power supply, but for the sake of this video and the fact this was good back in its day, I'll use it, but don't expect the rails to not catch on fire. We have a $12 Thermaltake cooler. This is something I would definitely not recommend because of its 3-pin and sad look. This is definitely worse than any stock cooler you can find on eBay or that comes in the CPU box. But a CPU I will recommend is a Contact 9 SE, which is something you can visibly see I have bought many of. Back to this thing. For our case, we're using an NZXT case. I had this lying around for a while and it was given to me by my uncle, and now I'm gonna reuse it for a system I might sell. For our graphics card, I'm gonna use the RX 460. A horrible thing to exist, found in OEMs, but a very budget friendly, having no external power connections at all, but only 6. Hey, it shares a similarity with the RTX 4060. Only 8 pins are working. But enough slandering with NVIDIA. This thing is not gonna break any records, but not gonna make your game horrible. It is compatible with Windows 11 and should run fine for what I'm gonna do to it. After mounting the cooler backplate on, we're gonna mount the actual cooler on it. Remember to apply thermal paste, if I can just remember where I put it. There it is. This is Arctic MX4. There are newer versions of this, but for the sake of budget and the fact I am broke, we're using this. And if that offended you, good. The last thing you should worry about your computer is thermal paste. As long as it's there, it's there.
For non-modular power supplies, you just want to shove it in there and tuck as much cables in as possible. Don't worry about looks, it's all going to be tucked away with the back panel.
And now for the front cam panel connectors. Since I don't have the camera equipment to film this correctly, you're just gonna have to guess and look it up.
You should at least have one screw holding in any PCIe devices. That includes graphics cards. Now for my least favorite part, fishing out the power supply cable to connect to the connectors.
For storage, we're going to be using two drives. A hard drive for game storage, which I really don't recommend, but I don't really have any other choice, and a solid state drive as a boot drive. But usually, a crazy British man uses a hard drive as a boot drive, but I don't got time for for installing Windows on a hard drive.
Now just shove everything in there. And this is the finished system. It's not the best, and it's definitely not going to win any awards looking good, but you're going to definitely have fun playing the games you want. The first game we're going to run is Team Fortress 2. Definitely not a game that's going to benchmark this really good, but it's only got 8 gigs of RAM and 2 gigabytes of VRAM, and if this system can't run Team Fortress 2, there's no way it can run anything else. I don't know if the 0.1% lows are due to a bug or MSI Afterburner is acting funny, or I just benchmarked it wrong entirely, but they're just straight zeros. Our next game is Stoneworks, a game that can run on almost anything, as long as it has 4 cores. But overall, there's not many stutters, and there's actually got a 0.1% low reading of 2.
You know your computer's bad when it takes you almost an hour for the game to optimize.
Had to cut the audio due to copyright, but we got some decent frames. The the game did give us a memory warning because only have 8 gigabytes of RAM and 2 gigabytes of VRAM, but the Forza's optimized enough for you to be able to play it in the low crowd density areas. But I would recommend upgrading this system to 16 gigs if you're gonna purchase it. Overall, only minor stutters here and there. sometimes a big freeze, but nothing that will stop you from playing competitively.
Overall, I paid $171 for this system, but don't expect a discount when I post it on eBay because I need to make some money back with the shipping fees.
Remember to subscribe, this helps a lot. I can't keep doing these videos without your help.